Call of the Night is an anime about a middle schooler named Ko, who spends his days sleeping and his nights out on the town. He does this because he has insomnia and because he finds the night so freeing. One such night, he runs into a lady named Nazuna. She invites him to her place, offering to help him sleep. After arriving, he pretends to doze off, at which point she drinks some of his blood, accidentally revealing that she's a vampire. Both of them surprised, Ko asks her if he's going to turn into a vampire. She says no, because you only turn into a vampire if you're in love with the person who drank your blood. One thing leads to another, and Ko, seeing Nazuna as someone who lives freely during the night, decides that he will fall in love with her so he can become a vampire and live in the night. Nazuna doesn't mind too much because his blood tastes better than any she's ever had before, though the talk of love does have her a bit embarrassed. What follows is a series of stories where Nazuna and Ko become closer through their adventures during the night. To me, many of the story points in the show are clear allegories for following dreams and social relations of all kinds. Ko is attempting to follow his dream of being a vampire and live in the night, and many of the story beats surrounding that can be an allegory for following dreams in general. Ko is young, 14 to be exact. He's inexperienced in romance and seems to be lacking some part of the brain that comprehends love. Nazuna is older, 30-ish or more. She's been physically intimate with many others, but she is embarrassed by true romance. In the show, sucking blood is often referred to as being euphoric as sex, and is emotional on various levels, making it a clear allegory for sex in general. What I'm trying to say is that, to me, I often saw the relationship as an allegory for a relationship between two normal adults, but you replace all the instances of blood-sucking with sex. Ko isn't an allegory for a literal 14-year-old, he's an allegory for someone new to the dating scene, who's having trouble figuring it all out and is inexperienced. Nazuna, on the other hand, is an allegory for someone who's been on the dating scene for a while, and, while physically experienced, has very little experience when it comes to emotions of love. Does this excuse having a 14-year-old and someone past their 30s having a relationship that's aiming towards romance? For some it will, and for some it won't. Why is Ko 14 then? Why is Nazuna so old? Couldn't you have told the same story without the age gap? Maybe, but it probably wouldn't hit as hard. Ko is so young because a new person on the dating scene is sometimes as naive as a 14-year-old. Nazuna is older because she's as physically experienced as an older vampire would be. They are embodiments of allegories, exaggerated versions of reality. These characters are more exciting and carry more dramatic weight than they would if they were normal adult ages. It helps that Ko is mature in certain ways, and while he doesn't understand the feeling of love, he does want to. He is also unembarrassed by romantic emotions, which adds to that mature feeling. Nazuna, on the other hand, despite being older, acts less mature, being embarrassed by the feeling of love. It also helps that because of the art style and medium of anime, they don't look that much different in age. Nazuna is a vampire, which also keeps her looking young. I'll be honest, I want these characters to be together for a multitude of reasons. I don't like this show because it's an age gap romance. I love it because it feels like every time it's forwarding the plot with story, it feels like it's also telling a second story in allegorical form. That might just be me. Plenty of people were not impressed with this show's story, and I can get that. If you don't see that second allegorical layer I see, and you don't appreciate the way the visuals and audio work together to tell the story, yeah, it probably seems pretty boring, but I find it rather exciting. When I say this show's audio and visuals are good, I don't just mean the way the characters look and sound. Everything about this show looks and sounds great. Even this show's critics seem to acknowledge that fact. The show does a great job of using color and sound to set the tone. Most of the time, you'll be seeing a lot of purple. This represents the freeness of the night, or something like that. But later on, you'll see the colors change, often with the emotions of our characters, and the social atmosphere. Indeed, when I first started watching, I was confused why the backgrounds were beautiful colors, but the characters are rarely lit in the same color as their surroundings. This is because the night isn't literally purple, it just feels purple. There's also an excellent use of sound in the show. It has good voice acting, music, and ambience. This show has quality sounds, but a big part of why it's so good is because the anime knows when to show restraint. Many of the moments that get you enveloped in the show have a lack of an audio element, such as music, ambience, or talking. They like to just take a moment to sink in something. A big part of making something, namely art, that some people don't realize is that knowing when not to do something is a big deal. Like not playing a good song just because it's good, or hurrying along to the next dialogue to keep the train rolling. Those little moments where you take a break do a lot. Overall, I'd recommend Call of the Night if it sounds interesting to you. I enjoyed it. If you didn't, that's totally understandable. I think much of this show's criticism was mainly at the age gap, and some people thought it was boring. And if that ruins your experience, I totally get it. Y'all let me know what you thought of this show in the comments. Until next time, I've been Roman Romantic.